some people out there say, well, I would evangelize, or I would go around healing people and doing that sort of thing if I had that particular gift. So if I had the gift of evangelism, if I had the gift of healing, if I had the gift of prophecy, so on and so forth. And they use this as an excuse to say, well, since that's not my gift, that's not my calling, that's not my ministry, then therefore that's for somebody else. You know, that's maybe for the pastor or somebody else that's got that particular gift. And what I find that's interesting is almost nobody has supernatural gifts, apparently. Because if you go around and ask people what they think their gifts are, it's usually something to the effect of maybe hospitality, maybe teaching, maybe something that just doesn't require any sort of supernatural ability. Like, for example, healing. Unbelievers can't do that, okay? They can't go around just healing people. Now, there's fakes out there and that sort of thing, but I'm talking about, let's say somebody with stage 4 cancer. You can't really fake that. But what's interesting is many people's spiritual gifts tend to be things that don't require supernatural intervention. Have you ever noticed that? And so what you have is a lot of Christians going around saying, well, you know, evangelism, that's not really my thing, even though we're all called to do it. Great Commission. Or, well, prophecy is not really my thing, even though we're commanded to all earnestly covet. To covet earnestly is how the King James puts it. Prophecy, or the gifts especially, that you may prophesy. And so you end up with everybody sort of relegating these over, and they say, well, that's not really my gift. Well, here's the thing. Any Christian out there can potentially operate in any of the gifts. Okay? Now, yes, the Spirit gives gifts individually according to his will. He gives Christians each, maybe it's a gift, maybe it's multiple gifts, but at least one gift. Yes, that's true. It says it in Romans 12, in 1 Corinthians it talks about this. Yes, each Christian gets a gift of the Spirit. That's correct. But the thing is that it doesn't exclude people from operating in other gifts of the Spirit. And if you don't believe me, then think about it like this. The Bible talks about there being gifts like hospitality, the gift of hospitality. So if you don't have the gift of hospitality, is it possible for you to be hospitable to other believers? Well, of course it is. Nobody would say, oh, well, I don't have the gift of hospitality. I would have you over at my house, and I would entertain you and give you food to eat and a place to stay, but I just don't have the gift of hospitality. No, you wouldn't say that. Same with the gift of mercy. The Bible talks about there's a gift of mercy. You wouldn't say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the gift of mercy, or I would show you mercy, but that's just not really my calling. That's not really my ministry, you know. I'm sorry, I just wasn't blessed with that gift, you know. Or there's the gift of giving. You wouldn't say, oh, you know what, I would give to you. I know you're in need right now. I would give to you, but it's not my gift. It's just not my gift. Of course, this sounds foolish, but for some reason, when we get to the supernatural gifts, people go, well, I would go around healing people, but it's just not really my gift. Now, yes, like I said, there are people with the gift of healing. But what that means, how the Bible talks about it is, if you have the gift of healing, that's what you operate in the most. That's what God uses you for the most. It doesn't mean that you cannot operate in any other gift. And it also doesn't mean that people who don't have the gift of healing can never heal somebody. Okay? I wouldn't consider myself to have the gift of healing, but God has used me to heal my wife, for example. She had a cough for probably about a year, and doctors couldn't figure out what it was. And God woke me up one night and told me to put my hand on her back, and God supernaturally right then healed her. And she even said the next day it felt like the hand of God was on her back, and this cough was instantly and miraculously healed. But I mean, I've tried to pray for other people for healing and nothing's happened. So God uses you. Think about it like this, okay? The Bible, in that passage in 1 Corinthians where it talks about how we've each been given a gift, it also says that we're all different parts of the body. So it talks about one person's a hand, one person's a foot, so on and so forth. One person's an eye. And think about it like this. In the natural, you have different body parts, but you can use them for purposes that they weren't intended for if you have to in a pinch, right? So there's people who lost their arms and they have to use their toes and their feet to do things that people would normally do with their arms. Pretty much everything. And they get really good at it, even though that's not what they're intended for. That's not their use. But in a pinch, in a bind, you can use your feet and your toes as hands if you need to. It can be done. And it's the same way to think about things spiritually. Yes, that's not what they're intended for. That's not their primary purpose. Your hands, your hands need to be used for certain things, but can you use your feet for those things at times? Yes, you can. And it's the same thing spiritually. Can God use you if that's not your particular gift? Can God use you if he doesn't have, let's say he doesn't have any hands around at that moment where maybe you're witnessing to somebody? Can he use you in a capacity that's not your typical, not the typical way that God uses you? Well, absolutely. Don't limit God. See, people want to go around limiting God. Well, I already got, I got one gift and that's, it's discernment and that's that. And no, God can use you as he sees fit. If there's no one else around to heal somebody, he can use you in the same way that if a person doesn't have arms, they can use their feet. Think about it like this, just a practical daily example. If I'm on my phone and let's say I'm doing something with my hands and I need to use my shoulder to hold my phone, my shoulder is not intended to hold phones, okay? That's not what it was intended for. But can I use, in a pinch, can I use my shoulder to hold my phone and act like a third hand? Well, yes, I can. It's the same thing spiritually. The Bible talks about how we're all different body parts. It's the same thing spiritually. You can use body parts for things they're not intended for, in the same way that God can use you in a way that normally you're not used for. Okay, so just think about it like that. Think about it like that. People don't go around, you shouldn't go around saying, well, I can't do such and such because I don't have that particular gift. No, if God wants to use you, he'll use you. And that's why Paul says that we're to earnestly desire the higher gifts, healings, prophecy, these sort of things, the higher gifts you're supposed to earnestly desire. Now, some people may say God chooses to give gifts to who he desires, which that's true. But it tells you who does he desire to give them to? Those who seek, those who knock, those who keep on asking. If you look at Luke 11, it says keep on seeking, keep on asking, keep on knocking. And it says that God knows how to give good gifts, or the Holy Spirit, to those who ask him. So that's what we need to do. We can keep asking. Don't just say, well, that's not my gift and that's that. No, that's not the way the Bible talks about gifts. It talks about how we're supposed to earnestly covet. We're supposed to pursue the gifts. We're supposed to desire the gifts. So if you don't have a particular gift that God uses you in, then pursue it. Earnestly desire. Ask God. It says that God's a good father and he gives good gifts to his children. That's what it says. So don't you think that if you have faith that he can give it to you if he wants? Now it's not about forcing him. It's not about making him give it to you. No, he wants to give gifts to his children, just like any father wants to give good gifts to his children. But the thing is, are you pursuing it? Are you asking? Do you even believe it? Do you even believe that God can give you, or have you accepted some sort of theology that says, oh no, we each have one gift and no, that's not my gift. I can't help out. Because if you're going to say that, then you need to be consistent. You need to say that you can't give because giving's not your gift, or that you can't show mercy, or you can't do all these different things. I mean, let's say if you're not an evangelist and you just meet somebody who needs to hear the gospel out on the street, are you just gonna say, well, sorry, it's not really my gift. The gift of evangelism is not really my thing. So, well, good luck. No, you don't say that. So I hope this helps somebody. I hope this blesses somebody. That's the way that you're to look at it. You're to look at it as, and think about it like this. God, the Bible talks about us being utensils, that if we cleanse ourselves from wickedness, that we can be useful to the master of the house. We can be useful to God. We can be used by him. Think about it like if you have a utensil, like I remember sometimes, there have been times where all of our dishes have been dirty, or maybe all of our spoons have been dirty. Let's just talk about that. All of our spoons have been dirty, and maybe all there was some kind of weird, maybe like a teaspoon, or maybe like a ladle or something like that. And you have to use what you got. You have to use, if all you have is a teaspoon, then you got to use that, or clean the one off that, clean the one off that are dirty. God prefers to use clean vessels and vessels that are intended for that purpose. But it doesn't mean that he can't, don't limit God. It doesn't mean that he can't use a teaspoon, so to speak, in place of a spoon, right? He can do whatever he wants. He can do as he pleases. So don't limit God. Stop putting limits on God. Stop telling God what he can and can't do. Your job is just to pursue the gifts and to pursue them earnestly, to covet them earnestly, it says. So just like you, if you're out of spoons, you can use a ladle or a teaspoon. If you're out of bowls, maybe you can use some sort of mixing bowl or a pot or something like that. Or you can just clean off one of the ones that you have. But God works around these things. So I hope that this is a blessing. If you have any questions, please post them down below. That's all I got for today. God bless.